The meaning of Epiphanytide. The term Epiphany comes from Greek and means appearance or manifestation. Therefore, the season itself is intended to highlight the manifestation of Jesus Christ during his earthly life, his incarnation, and his appearing in the human world. The key events include: the star in heaven guided the Magi from the east to worship the infant Jesus, thereby revealing that Jesus Christ has come into the world in human flesh. At the baptism of Jesus, the Holy Spirit descended like a dove and came upon him. At that moment, the heavens were opened, and a voice from heaven said, "This is my beloved Son, with whom I am well pleased." This signifies that God the Father and the Holy Spirit publicly affirmed the identity of Jesus Christ, confirming that he was about to begin his redemptive work on earth. Afterward, Jesus Christ began his public ministry, proclaiming and teaching, calling and commissioning disciples, and performing signs and wonders. Among these events, the Transfiguration stands out most clearly as a holy manifestation of his divine identity. The incarnation of Jesus Christ, together with the public affirmation of his divine identity by the Father and the Holy Spirit at his baptism, expresses the Christological doctrine of the two natures of Christ, fully God and fully human. This serves to counter heresies such as Docetism, which denies Jesus' true humanity, and Arianism, which denies Jesus' true divinity. By the 3rd century, the Church had already designated January 6th each year as the Feast of the Epiphany, also known as Epiphany Day. By the end of the 3rd century, Christians in Alexandria, North Africa, had already treated January 6th as Christmas Day, and the Eastern Church, Eastern Orthodoxy, likewise chose this date as the Nativity Feast. According to the structure of the liturgical year, Epiphanytide begins each year on January 6th, the Feast of the Epiphany, and continues until the day before Ash Wednesday. However, the length of Epiphanytide varies from year to year. In other words, the number of Sundays in Epiphanytide depends on how many Sundays fall between the Feast of the Epiphany and the day before Ash Wednesday. The determining factor is the date of Easter, which serves as the basis for calculating the season. For example, if Easter falls relatively early, Epiphanytide may consist of only 3 Sundays. Conversely, if Easter falls later, the season will be longer, sometimes lasting as many as 9 Sundays. Epiphanytide begins with the Feast of the Epiphany, January 6th. The following Sunday is the first Sunday after the Epiphany, which is usually known as the Baptism of the Lord. The final Sunday of Epiphanytide is commonly called Transfiguration Sunday. On these 3 occasions, the Epiphany, the Baptism of the Lord, and the Transfiguration, the liturgical color is white, symbolizing light, purity, and glory. Apart from these 3 days, green is used throughout most of Epiphanytide, symbolizing the vitality and growth of the Church's life.